Good morning, I'm Ian Clayton and I'm the author of Bringing It All Back Home, and I'm just going to read a little story to you from it. This is about an old bloke who lived down my street. I lived in a terrace road called Mafeking Street in a town called Featherstone, and just further on down my road there was an ancient man, they call him Johnny Hope, so I'm going to read a bit about him. Johnny Hope and his wife Emily are so old that even my granddad calls them old. Johnny likes to sit on a stool outside of his back door and he makes up stories about his life. In his pocket he'll have a brown egg from the allotment, and he'll give that egg to the first woman who passes by, and he'll sing him a song in a corncrake voice. Poor old Johnny's dead, for he died last night in bed. He cut his throat on a bar of soap. Poor old Johnny's dead. He can recite the Featherstone Rovers teams right back to Edwardian times, and he does it like prayers. Randall, Hickson, Jukes, Kellett, Sammy Southall. Wasn't that the team that beat Widnes in Challenge Cup in 1906, Mr. Hope? As I know. 'Cause you tell me every time I come to your house. I'm the only boy in our street who's allowed to go into Johnny's house. Emily's not well and she lays on a leather chaise longue all day covered in crocheted blankets. I show me good manners and I talk quietly, and I give Johnny the odd woodbine out of my granddad's packet. Johnny's house is filled with potted plants, newspapers that he uses as tablecloths, ornaments, pictures, empty sour milk bottles and dog food tins with razor-sharp lids. There's an old chocolate tin, and on the lid of the chocolate tin is a lady leaping through the air with a flowing scarf, and Johnny tells me that that picture on the tin lid is his wife, Emily, and I visualise her. She's Isadora Duncan, and she's dancing with Johnny when they're young and in love to music coming out of the tin horn on his wind-up gramophone. Will you play that gramophone for me please, Mr. Hope? I can't, lad, for it wants a nail. What does it want a nail for? To play it records with. That needs a nail. Well, they call it a stylus now, Mr. Hope. Aye, well that wants a nail. And he spits gobstoppers of coal miner's phlegm into a crackling fire. What's that want to hear that for any road? It's no good, nah. Well, my Auntie Alice says that you can play music on them old gramophones by putting the corner of a photograph into grooves. Well, I can tell the Auntie Alice from me that this'n wants a nail. I rarely got to hear Mr. Hope's wind-up gramophone, but I can still picture it. It's on his sideboard, and his chair's by the fire, his hearth full of ashes, his half-empty sour milk bottles are there, and it all symbolises something very special. A relationship between two neighbours, 80 years apart. A love of storytelling, of things. And I think of all the ghosts that might have been unleashed had I ever persuaded Mr. Hope to let me play a record with the edge of an old photograph. You know, when Neil Armstrong became the first man to set foot on the moon, I ran into our backs to look up at the sky. Old Johnny Hope was squatting, like coal miners do, by his back door and spitting. And I went over to him and I said, Mr. Hope, a man's landed on moon. And he didn't say anything. Mr. Hope, aren't you excited? They call him Neil Armstrong, and he says it's one small step for a man and a giant leap for mankind. And he still didn't say anything. Mr. Hope, the commentator says that we're standing on the threshold of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And he looked at me and he said, oh aye. And then he just carried on spitting and staring into space, and I wondered why he wasn't excited. And eventually he said, do you know, lad, I think I've just seen a rat in my binhole. And at that point I thought, Mr. Hope must be the most ignorant man I'd ever met. I'd always thought he was the wisest man I'd ever met, and there he was, talking about rats in his binhole on the very night that man landed on the moon. But as I've got a little bit older and perhaps a little bit wiser myself, I've come to realise that he was the wisest old man that I ever met, because what would be the point of firing a man to a moon if we've still got rats in his binholes? And isn't it more important to get as all midding in order first.